What's going on, good people? Welcome back to Back to Classics, the cinematic movie podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago on the big three streaming platforms, iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. I am your guy, Jay Alonso, and with me, as always, is my PIC, partner in crime.
David Danger Neff. You could be my PEN1. My public enemy. Wait, no. You need to be my friend.
Yeah. See, we got too many letters for acronyms. It's like, let's just kind of keep it simple.
Can I comment on your welcome there? You know, you're like, welcome back. I love it.
Yeah, because
that's just beautiful.
If you realize, like, you know, we do the show once a week. It's not like they don't get enough of us already. Cause we have this show, then we have the fucking YouTube show.
Right.
But it's like when we do Back to the Classics, it's me and you and the Cinefolks and whatever guests we have for hours and change. And we do that once a week. And I genuinely miss the Cinefolks.
I do too.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, I had people hit me up the other day saying that they like the fact that we announced the show 3 days in advance or 2 days in advance. That way they can watch the movie and then we review the movie. Oh, like, yeah, I remember that part. It's a great part.
Yeah.
So I'm genuinely happy and enthusiastic when we jump on this mic. What's going on? How was the week?
I mean, it was good. I feel like with your welcome back, I feel like we should have that like theme song of Welcome Back, Cotter.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Or should Mace welcome back?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Yeah, I like that. How was your week, man?
You know what? Overall, I've had a pretty good week, except for what we're going to talk about coming up. But my grandmother, my mom's mom, and my mom's little sister are in town. So I'm going to spend the majority of this week hanging out with them and hanging out with Grams. You know what I'm saying? You know, Grandma lives in Ohio. So, you know, when she comes out, she tries to come like once a year. So when she comes out, you know, you got to hang with Grandma.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Of course, you're going to hang with her. She'll get the third degree. She you know, they're going to judge you.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, fill you with overwhelming love. So I always look forward to Grandma getting in town.
Does your grandma like home cook when she comes in?
Yeah. I think
like?
all grandmas do that. It's like no matter, you're not even at home. You're in your daughter's home or you're in your grandson's home. But yeah, you must feel the need to jump on the good old kitchen. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna say no.
See, my abuela, like she totally cooks. And the thing is that in my hometown, everybody like lives within like 10 minutes of abuela.
Right.
You know, so when it's lunchtime and everybody just feels like having lunch, they just show up at her house. And like, you already know she's got stuff going. So I kind of feel bad because I'm like, does she like sit there like 3 days a week when we don't come over and just has like,
food?
No, she just has like extra food. She was like, oh, do you want this stew? She'll make like a stew and then she'll turn around and serve you like a ham or even prime rib. And I'm like, are you like staying up to like 3?
And the crazy thing, like when it comes to grandmothers, it's like, you've known them for so long. For those who are fortunate to, you know, have their grandmother either alive and with them, you study your grandma's every move. My grandmother has lived in Ohio for as long as, you know, we've been alive.
Right.
So when we go visit, you know, even when she's out here, she has the same program throughout the day, unless she's at home back in Ohio, where she's going to go to church sometime during the day. But she's at home watching her stories, watching Young and the Restless, and watching God and Light, and then later on in the day we're gonna put on a little bit of Judge Judy, and after Judge Judy,
okay, for real, Judge Judy,
it's me.
No, Judge Judy looks exactly like my foster grandmother. My father lived, not to share too much of my family history, but for a small period of time he had to actually live in foster care. And my great, I guess my Nana Betty, you know, she is exactly like Judge Judy. I mean, down to like the meanness of her. One time I threw a temper tantrum because, you know, I was a little bitch back then. And
she's like, I don't care.
No, not only did she not care, but she straight up like smacked the shit out of me in front of my parents. And let me tell you something. I did not throw a tantrum the rest of the time I was there.
See, we're fortunate enough to have both grandmothers, my father's mother and my mom's mom, and they're two incredibly different women. Like, I love them both dearly, but they're two, like my father's mother, she hits. My mom's mom, she gets actually to where her words are like getting into your soul.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
You know what? My mom even does that. She'll call me a moron, and that shit hurts.
Like, my grandma one time, I never forget it. My grandma one time goes, so you just gonna smoke on the weed and have your brain cells go away? And Grandma, why you stealing my joy? This is my joy. But
hey, I like it, Grandma. I ain't gonna lie.
oh yeah, so I'm looking forward to
amazing.
her getting in the kitchen for sure, and I can't wait to hang out with her. She turns 80 next year. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's dope.
So going to what I was saying earlier, overall, it has been a good week, but unfortunately, the week did go a bit somber because we lost two celebrities, one in the music field, one in the in our industry as far as entertainment, as far as movies are concerned. So we'll touch on one briefly, and we'll really focus on the next one. As a fan of this man's music, and as someone who's pretty much studied his moves along the way, I was deeply affected by the sudden death of Mac Miller.
Yeah, that was pretty sad because there was definitely a decline there, and sometimes life hits you and you got to find a way to recover, and it never seemed like it could recover.
It felt that way. You know what? I came across this documentary on YouTube called "Stop Making Excuses," which had him.
Right.
And I believe it was if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong. It is. I want to say it was produced by Complex. I could be wrong though. It could be or Fader. No, sorry, it's a Fader documentary.
Okay.
And so it's him pretty much talking about his drug addiction, his depression problems, and so on and so forth. And he's never shied away from that. He's never not spoken about his issues, with addiction. And he's also put it in his music as well. So when things are kind of lining up for him, like he just put out a fantastic new album called Swimming just last month. And, he was on, I want to say, Beats One Music doing an interview prepping for his tour. And then randomly, a couple of days later, he's gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so this one affected me more because, like I said, I've always been a huge fan of his music. And in the hip hop community, when a certain talent passes away, you're either aware of this particular talent, or of them just kind of through in passing, but you don't know their music, whatever. But with Mac Miller, even going all the way back to Blue Slide Park, and then watching him evolve as an artist, from watching movies with the sound off to The Divine Feminine, which is probably his most R&B heavy album with that hip hop spin to it. He was a rising, developing talent. He was a rapper, singer, producer, writer. And he's one of those guys who really, did take his crap seriously. So to see a talent like that being taken so soon, when you still have so much more to give, and for what I've been told, an incredibly nice guy, a really nice, personable dude. So, to see that he's been taken from us so soon, it affected me pretty quickly, pretty hard actually.
Yeah, I kind of nailed it there, man.
Man, so rest in peace to Mac Miller.
That's rough.
Yeah, condolences go out to his family and his friends, of course, all the fans out there. But this is not a hip hop show, so I just want to touch on him really quickly as a fan of him and the music. Rest in peace, Mac Miller. Now, the second loss we've gotten, I want to say it was the same week, if not definitely a few days prior.
It was definitely prior.
Yeah.
And he was the ultimate renegade.
He was the epitome of cool.
He was. He
really
really
the
was.
Definition of fucking cool.
There's very few people that I could think of that when I think of cool, like he's definitely up there. And of course, we're talking about the legendary Burt Reynolds, who
Smokey himself.
Smokey himself, yeah. Reynolds died at the age of 82, and he was always one of those guys that he would fade, from the spotlight a little bit, and then next thing you know, he's like smack right into the middle of everything.
Like he never lost a beat.
Exactly. And all of a sudden you just can't take your eyes off him. I mean, in Boogie Nights, for example, that was a pure, clear revival of him because it was everything that, in a sense, made Burt Reynolds who Burt Reynolds is. Me kind of growing up in Georgia, we know him from Deliverance, and that's because, it was taking place out of the Swanee River out there. And as terrifying as Deliverance is, it's still one of Burt Reynolds' finest works that he could have made. So it's rough, but it's also one of those things where he lived a full life as much as he possibly could.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for me, I had to kind of go back to the earlier work of Burt Reynolds because I, like most in our age range, unless you are a diehard, Burt Reynolds fan or a diehard movie fan, for that matter, you have to, kind of take your time to study, kind of go back. But my first real memorable performance of Burt Reynolds was Cop and a Half.
Yeah, Cop and a Half, definitely.
It was something that I could relate, not relate to, but, having this, this little black kid kind of befriend this detective, and there's a great concept behind it. And then from then on, he's had those movies to where they just stuck with you. Like, for example, the original Longest Yard is still one of his best films.
Of course. I would actually say The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
Yeah.
That is a lot of fun.
But for him to come back to The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler now playing Paul Crewe.
Right.
And him playing, Jesus, what's the character's name?
His character's Nate Scarborough.
Scarborough, yeah.
Yeah.
And still give a great performance. And then, going a bit further back, Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights is a classic. Whenever I see Boogie Nights, like I think the 1970s. And it's funny because, we just had 54.
Right.
And it's like 54 borrowed so many elements from Boogie Nights. It was almost like they really wanted to say, oh, okay, well, we're going to shoot this scene, but we're going to make this into our own thing about it. And I'm like, you're just taking it from Boogie Nights, because Boogie Nights was the 70s in the best ways possible.
I mean, seriously, when it came to Boogie Nights, who else could really play that character?
Nobody.
Like Burt Reynolds.
Jack Horner? Nobody could play Jack
Burt
Horner.
Reynolds was the 70s.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, he had the iconic mustache, or later on he had the beard. But, Burt Reynolds, like we said, he was the epitome of cool.
I mean, it's funny because I never realized how much of my childhood he really was in. I don't know if you know this. Do you know he voiced Charlie B. Barkin from All Dogs Go to Heaven?
Yeah.
And it's like when you think about that and you think of how Charlie is in that movie, just the animated version of him, he was so cool. And, it kind of breaks my heart.
It really does, but like you said, he did live an incredible full life.
He did.
Also, with that being said, he was geared up to, I'm not sure who the character he was going to play, but he was set to appear in Quentin Tarantino's newest film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he passed before he can actually film a scene. So, very interested to see where Quentin goes with that character. But real quick, rapid fire before we get into today's show. Top 3 Burt Reynolds movies, go.
All right, number 3, Cannonball Run for me. Number 2, man. All right, number 2 is incredibly difficult for me because there's a few of them. I almost want to say Deliverance, only because of how much it reminded me of the South and all that jazz. And number 1, definitely Boogie Nights for me.
Nice. I'm gonna go Deliverance 3. I'm gonna go Longest Yard 2.
That's a good one.
And definitely Boogie Nights number
Boogie
1.
Nights,
yeah. Once again, Boogie Nights it was Burt's performance that pretty much summed up the last.
He should have won the Oscar for that.
He was nominated.
He was nominated, but he should have won the Oscar.
But his performance as Jack Horner summed up the last 30 years of his actual career.
Exactly.
All into that one movie.
Yeah.
And it's a tremendous loss. A little different than Mac Miller because his was very sudden and you didn't even see it coming. But Burt was obviously on the declining side.
He was in his 80s.
But he lived a full life. Definitely one of the last few movie stars that we had. There's only very few left. Nowadays we're in an era where the movie has to sell itself. Like the movie star no longer sells the movie.
Right.
And back in them days, Burt Reynolds sold the movie.
Yep, I agree.
So once again, on behalf of BTTC, myself and Danger Dave, we salute the life, the brilliance, the work ethic, the all-around charm, the legend himself, Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds.
By the way, his middle name was Leon.
That's so cool. Burt Leon Reynolds.
Burt Leon Reynolds.
That is so cool.
Do you smoke? I think you smoke. No shit.
One final special tribute here because we don't get too often to do the show on the day of. But today we did the show, and I was a little worried about when we were actually going to do the show this week. But today is September 11th. Mm-hmm. And
by the time you hear the show, it'll be that Thursday. But as we record today, it is September 11th.
Right. And it kind of pains me not to be able to really give a full tribute and a video or anything along those lines to really salute our troops and to thank all the firefighters and police officers out there that work so hard to try to do the absolute right thing, the American way, and anything along those lines. Some of you guys may actually be listening to this in your troop cars or in the station, trying to learn a little bit more about the movies and that Jay and I know. And it's the little service that you guys do for us that allows us the freedom that we can do here. And
absolutely. What you guys do on a daily basis allows me and Dave to get on the mic and talk movies.
That's right. So as important as your job, as your guys' career and job is, to give us these freedoms and the sacrifices that we make through it and the amount of sometimes how that freedom can sometimes be taken for granted. Especially when you have a terrible day like September 11th, 2001. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. You guys really do what you think is right for us. And we salute you for that.
Absolutely. Let's brighten the mood a little bit.
Yes, please. Like, I felt like we had to do these little tributes because sometimes it's easy to kind of get mixed up in trailers and things like that it's important for us to recognize these wonderful members of our society as well, because hey, you guys are human too.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're all human. With this being a week of things are happening, but we did lose some great people.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's get into some quick Beat Network news before we get into today's movie. Let's make it quick. We're going to Comic-Con.
That's right, baby. We're going to Comic-Con.
Yes. Yes. Me, Dave, Los, Kev, the Beat family have been working diligently to prep, to make sure we have everything lined up to give you guys some of the best Comic-Con footage that we can think of. We're still getting confirmation on interviews. We're still getting everything together. But, when I tell you that the entire family is beyond excited, give them the dates, Dave.
So Comic-Con officially happens October 4th through the 7th. However, the Beat family will be arriving a day early to make sure that we cover literally everybody. On the Comic-Con website, you can track all, because there's going to be different people talking on every single day. different people being able to do panel interviews, to autographs, things like that. And exclusively, we'll be able to actually get in on some of those interviews in a one-on-one situation. So you're definitely going to want to check out the Beat Network online website to make sure that you can see everything. So if you're on YouTube or Instagram, please make sure that you follow us at Beat Network to make sure you get the latest news out of Comic-Con. October 4th through the 7th is Comic-Con, and man, I'm just so excited for this. It's tough. It's tough not to like hold my excitement down on this. You know what I mean? Like I'm just, I'm so pumped.
Maybe that sound again? That's Dave's pump sound. But yes, beyond excited for it. First time going to Comic-Con, and just so I have to be going to Comic-Con as media. So that's
that's so cool.
That's like going to like a Cinefolks Disneyland.
How did we get so cool?
Dude, Cinefolks, man.
I know, right? Thank you guys. Seriously.
We talk, we listen. So with that being said, let's kick off today. Obviously we're going to skip 2-minute drill for time because we want to, put more time into talk about the great Burt Reynolds and of course Mac Miller. So let's kick off today's flick. We're taking it back to 1998. Go figure, September 11th is 1998. This movie came out. We're taking it back to Rounders. Original release date, September 11th, 1998. Shares opening weekend with Simon Birch.
That was, wasn't that the kid from Jerry Maguire?
No, that was, no.
Now, who was that kid?
I don't think he worked since then. I think he really was like sick.
Was he?
I believe he was.
All right, this is going to have to be something.
Let's fact check that. Meanwhile, a production budget $12 million with a box office total of $22.9 million. Currently holding 65% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I like it. I think it's actually aged pretty well. I mean, there's some scenery chewing.
Oh, this movie should be called Scenery Chew, starring John Malkovich. We'll get to that in a second. But overall, I think it's still a very good movie. But what is funny because we're still in the year 1998 for this year, and Rounders is one of those few movies that look and feel like 1998.
Yeah, it does. It definitely feels the 90s in there.
It feels very 90s. I guess you can kind of, give credit to that, with Matt Damon looking so young, even Ed Norton looking younger than he normally would look.
Oh, I know.
Gretchen Mol, and it's funny even Malkovich.
Because of the way that Edward Norton looks in this movie, I think it's kind of interesting because obviously Fight Club would come out the next year, right? Because man, I feel like some of the clothing they put on Ed Norton was what they put on Brad Pitt.
They switched it. They just switched wardrobes.
Yeah.
Seriously.
By the way, Simon Birch, that was Joe Mazzello. That was the kid from Jurassic Park.
But he wasn't Simon Birch, though.
Who was he?
He played the brother of Simon Birch.
What?
Or the best friend, or one of the two.
Why do I not remember this movie?
Have you seen Simon Birch? Because Jim Carrey played an older Mazzello after Simon Birch's character died. Spoiler.
No, I don't remember this.
Wow. Well, all right.
I'm really glad we didn't talk about this movie and we talked about Rounders.
There's a reason why I decided to go this route.
All right, so let's kick off this movie. So
real quick, I must make a confession. This is my first time ever watching Rounders.
Really?
Yes.
All right. How'd you like it?
Besides the chewing,
yeah,
it's a lot of chewing.
It is,
but the concept does reel you in. Also, I never thought a movie about high stakes poker would be so entertaining.
Well, this movie really kicked off because you remember in the early 2000s how big the World Series of Poker was.
It was just kicking off, right?
And the thing is that with this movie, it literally just like threw everything that could against the wall to make it kind of realize. And a couple things with this movie. First and foremost, Rounders is one of those movies that that it definitely, the plot doesn't really matter too much. It's kind of a secondary thing. It's about how the scenes kind of play out with the actors more than anything. Let me explain. It's not that the story isn't bad. It's just, it's kind of predictable a little bit.
Very much so.
So because it's predictable, what the movie had it sell itself on is good acting, which legitimately there is good acting in here. Yeah. And also kind of making you feel a little bit for these characters, making it realize that these characters are real. So the plot goes, Matt Damon plays a young man who is, kind of has a bankroll from playing poker quite a bit. And what he decides to do is he goes up against literally one of the biggest underground Russian mafia poker players.
Now, just to kind of cut you off real quick, I hate Malkovich's name in this movie.
KGB?
Teddy KGB.
Teddy KGB? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Malkovich kind of plays, like Malkovich. He plays kind of grimy and kind of sleazy a little, but also condescending. And winds up going and he beats Matt Damon and literally takes his entire bankroll. Beats him with four of a kind aces versus a full house. Doesn't really matter. But there was something really interesting about this because all of a sudden it was like Damon kind of goes, and first off, what an interesting career choice he decided to go after. Law. Like I'm sitting there and I'm like, huh, like that's what you decided to do? Like that's how you're going to make your living. And the amount of money that's kind of being thrown around in this, because if you really think about it, like he takes basically 6 months off, 6 to 8 months off. I can't remember the exact time frame. And, he's gained a little bit of sniffs of the poker game, but he's a straight and narrow man now. He drives a truck and he studies law with his girlfriend, Gretchen Mol. And, is trying to make his way up that field a little bit. So,
that first scene, he's basically giving you a nice tutorial into what he's doing.
Exactly.
What about what he does, really? We do get our first introduction to Teddy KGB. I fucking hate that name. Played by John Malkovich, a.k.a. Chewy. And the one thing I really do admire about that scene is, he walks in there and you can tell he's been around for a little while because, and all the fucking cookies with John Malkovich. It irked my soul. But as he's talking to us, pretty much letting us know what the plan actually is. And, they're going back and forth and basically Malkovich is, calling his bluff. He's calling, Malkovich's bluff. And and when I saw it, I really thought that he would take him for what he had and break out. But the minute Malkovich pulls those two aces, I was like, ah, shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, shit.
And the thing is that now that we've kind of gotten used to the World Series of Poker, 20 years later, like most of us know the general rules of it and why it's so impressive. Back then, because of how little was known about it, or if you weren't in that world, now it's all televised on ESPN or whatever. It was really cool and really unique. This was this young guy that just kind of made like $7,000 in one night, and you're just like, what's $7,000? Like I'm sitting here, I'm working 8 hours a day and this guy just literally sat there for 8 hours a day. Now I'm going to get into a little bit of truth telling on this. Mm-hmm. And here's the reason why. I worked right next to the poker room at the Bellagio. Mm-hmm. So to give you guys an example of that, every big name that's pretty much ever played poker has almost always stopped at the Bellagio. Mm-hmm. Examples: Phil Ivey, Phil Hellmuth. There's the vice president the CFO of operations for the Bellagio is Bobby Baldwin. Bobby Baldwin won the 1978 World Series of Poker. So we had all this around us the entire time. And here's what I can say about it. The term rounders is actually just a poker term for grinders. Right. Basically people that go and spend 8, 10, 12-hour days. And let me tell you something, You definitely see it. You see these guys and they'll go and they'll play 8 to 10 hours a day and come out of there with whatever that they had in their pockets. And maybe they might have only made $300-400 in that day, which kind of brings to me to one of my favorite characters because he's the only character that's actually based on a real person. Mm-hmm. And that's John Turturro's character, whose name is Kanish. Mm-hmm. Okay. However, the actual name of that person that Kanish is actually playing. Now, Kanish is this guy that is known as, is just kind of, he does this literally for a living. This is, his mortgage is based upon this. His child's alimony or his wife's alimony is based upon, or ex-wife's alimony is based upon this. Child support is paid through this. So for him, it's not about chasing dreams or trying to be at the big table. It's about playing the game and try to come home with positive money over negative money.
Obviously.
Now he's based on a real person, and that person's name is Joel Bagels Rosenberg, who actually passed away in 2014.
So how do you feel? Because I'm not sure how true this actually is, but I did read somewhere. No, I'm sorry. It was actually Howard Stern who said that the movie itself is based on experiences of Norm Macdonald.
I heard that too, but I'm not sure because Norm Macdonald is an incredibly intelligent guy. Mm-hmm. And if you guys don't know who Norm Macdonald is, please just go watch some of his comedy.
Watch Dirty Work.
Watch Dirty Work, or just watch Billy Madison. You'll know who he is. I think it's a little bit true, but I can't really confirm it. I did want to really touch base a little bit on Bagels Rosenberg, though, because this is a kind of person, this is a kind of reality situation these guys have. Rosenberg is one of those guys that was one of the nicest guys they could possibly ever meet. But he had one goal and one goal in mind, and that is to put the money that's in your pocket into his pocket.
Clearly.
So, and it's important for everybody to kind of get that distinction because he'll be absolutely nice. He used to drive a truck around New York City, and he'd be willing to help you. You said you're down on your luck and whatnot. You feel like you're not doing so hot or whatnot. He would literally let you drive his truck for a week and take his paycheck for that week.
Now, this is who Kanish's name is.
This is who Kanish is based off of. Uh-huh. And the thing is that they make lines. There's actual lines in there in this movie that are pure quotes from Bagels. For example, the line that Edward Norton says where, it's like that old saying, women are the fucking rake, man. And like Mac Damon's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, oh, I don't know. It's just whatever. That was a line from Bagels himself.
What did that mean?
It just means women are the fucking rake, man.
What's the fucking rake, man?
Exactly. But it doesn't matter. That was something that was really important to this movie to kind of make you recognize how real some of these people are. And the thing is that, well, that's just kind of how this world really is. Especially, I've had firsthand experience of seeing these guys. Mm. And I mean, some of these guys turn into really big things. Phil Ivey literally has a room at the Aria that's called the Ivy Room, which is where you play high stakes poker. Minimum buy $20,000 just to get in.
So we don't play we don't play it now.
No, we don't play that.
Gotcha.
We play 5-10 no limit. That's what we play. We play 1-2 limit and max bets $18.
And I lose at 18, I'm done for the day.
Exactly. So the plot of the movie kind of goes through, the most dynamic character in this movie is Edward Norton's character, Worm.
Now, touching on that real quick, I loved Worm's introduction.
I loved it too.
I thought it was awesome. So, at this point, Mike is, he stepped away from the game, and he finds out that Worm is getting out of prison.
Right.
And we cut to the scene where a nice scraggly faced Norton is, running game on other inmates for the cigarettes. And I didn't know where the scene was going to go. But the way it plays out, I thought was genius. Because, in prison, there's no money to bet. There's only, not even contraband. It's your snacks or whatnot. So when find out he wins what 3 packs of cigarettes.
Yeah, it was something like that.
And the guys going, this is bullshit and da da da. And
well, no, what was bullshit was that literally they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, I'll lose it to you later. And the guard literally goes,
I love
he's like, yo, what are you still doing here? You're supposed to be processed right now.
Oh, you getting out, motherfucker? Are you serious? So I thought it was a very cool way to introduce Worm because it lets you know up top, Worm doesn't give a fuck.
No, he doesn't.
He's merely about getting paid.
Exactly.
And hustling.
And you come to find out that the reason why is because Worm actually owes quite a bit of money to a lot of different people, but it's all been consolidated to one guy. So name is Grandma, you said?
Yeah, when I looked at the credits,
we'll say
like
Grandma. How about that?
There's no D in it. It's Graham.
Yeah, you know what? That's the problem. He takes a D out of everything.
It's Graham A. Grandma.
Who names a character that?
I don't know. But he's played by Michael Rispoli, another awesome actor from he's a
90s actor in every sense of that word.
Every sense of the word. So Mike does learn that Worm has this outstanding debt that he's pretty much incurred before his incarceration. And
right, didn't he run up like he literally took debt out of Mike's name at this at this underground poker lounge?
Let me be the first to say that Worm is hands down one of the best friends you can actually have. And the reason why I say this, he will get you into some shit. Absolutely. But when it comes down to loyalty, Worm is very loyal to Mike.
Okay.
Which wait, just begins that way. You want to say so? Or as the movie progresses, it's a little different.
Well, it's not that I don't think that he's not loyal. It's that what I think it is. Like, my only question is this: is that let's say this movie took a different route. You know, what would have been Worm's play at the end of it? Let's say the debt's all paid off and Worm is still around. You know, I don't know what his end play would be. I'm not 100% certain that he is actually loyal. I think he's out to look out for his own shit first. Mm-hmm. And then that's that. Think about it. He worsens the situation each and every time. Literally, anytime they get a chance to kind of get it clear, like he's just antagonizing because he just hates this idea of having to owe money to his former lackey.
Right.
You know, so I don't know. Worm is actually one of my favorite characters in this movie. And the reason why is because like you realize he is fucking smart as hell. Mm-hmm. You know, but like he's still one of those guys that like you always keep at a distance. You know what I mean? Like cool to hang out with him once in a while, but you don't want to get close to Worm. You don't want to get close to Worm. Worm's going to be that guy that would be the first one to snitch on you if you get pulled over by the cops.
Right. Mike sets up Worm. He sets Worm up at the Chesterfield Club, which I thought was another great scene as well.
What a great name for a club, by the way.
The Chesterfield Club.
That's so classy.
The Chester Club.
The Chesterfield.
In order to build a bankroll to pay off his debts, and it allows Worm to play on Mike's credit.
Right. So $2,000 in credit is built at first. Worm winds up winning $8 grand, and he just says, I was getting ready to go on a roll. Like, what roll were you about to go on? You quadrupled your money. You quadrupled.
Oh, yeah.
He says, what was he going to do? Was he going to win $100,000?
Well, as he's cashing out, Worm does take the full 10 grand, including the 2,000 borrowed on Mike's credit, which begins a tab on Mike's name, obviously gaining interest.
Right.
Later, Worm runs into Grandma. And we actually learned that he's a former colleague. Plus, he's
he's a lackey.
He's a pimp.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he's an awful person.
Yeah, he's
no, seriously, he is an awful person. Like, well acted, but he's still an awful person.
But then we also find out that Grandma actually bought up his outstanding debt, and then Worm now owes him $25K.
Right. Yeah, it's something ridiculous.
I couldn't imagine owing somebody $100. $25,000?
I know, right? I can't imagine that either.
That's death.
That is death.
That,
people have died over smaller shit than that.
You owe me $50.
Right, yeah. You owe me $50.
Hey, that $50 yeah. $25K? Jesus Christ.
I can't imagine that. So it's like, on the flip side of this, Gretchen Mol and Matt Damon, you know, Mike, you know, they're going through relationship struggles because it was really the first time that Mike ever lied to her.
Right.
You know, saying that he wasn't really back in the poker game. And at that point, technically he wasn't. But he was sniffing it.
He was,
you know,
definitely
he was about to dip his toe in for sure. You know, so it was something I actually kind of liked about her because she makes the obvious decision, right? The obvious decision to basically, you know, you lied to me. I literally saw you go through the dumps on this. I literally saw you, you know, I'm trying to help you out with this law career, you know, and for what? Like you're kind of bringing me through the toil,
right?
You know, and there's another interesting dynamic that we haven't talked about with Mike and one of the judges that he builds a relationship with through the law school, who's played by Martin Landau.
The great Martin Landau. Rest in peace to him as well.
Now, funny thing about this, something that's probably not going to be on your quick takes. Do you know what Martin Landau's last movie was before he passed away?
Entourage?
Literally called Abe and Ben's Last Poker Game.
Huh.
You can't make this shit up, people.
Huh. Okay.
And Landau is passionate about law. Absolutely. But he grew up in like a Jewish house, and they were expecting him to turn out to be a rabbi. Mm. And through this building of this relationship, there's this really phenomenal story that gets told about how basically Martin Landau had to decide whether to be a rabbi or to follow his heart into law. And his family was pushing and expecting him to go into that. Then he wound up choosing the law. His family never talked to him again. But it's one of those things that the lesson basically was, you know, to follow your passion. If you feel like, now you could be good at something else, but if you feel like you could be great at something, you know, you got to do what you got to do. And in this case, Mike loses Gretchen Mol, you know,
for a second time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, that was kind of that. Meanwhile, though, in this case, Worm has basically kind of lost a little bit of his bankroll, you know, and I mean, he wound up racking up like $7,000 in debt at this point, you know. So it's like, how much of a friend are you, and why didn't you say something? Why didn't you say, hey man, things aren't going well for me right now?
I love how Grandma reveals the fact that he is working with KGB to collect on that debt.
Right, exactly.
And so, you know, Worm tries to like hassle him a little bit and gets beat the fuck up in the process.
He does.
You know, he takes 10 grand off him.
The worst part about it, and well, so then the debt is lowered from the 10 grand to now just from 15. The 25 to the 15 at that point. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that it's how Worm operates. Like Worm, you owe debt. And the funny thing is that even Mike was like, dude, I could have paid off your debt and still would have been up $5,000, you know, and not had lost his entire bankroll because he was willing to do that because they were childhood friends.
Right.
But Worm was like, nah, man, fuck those guys. Like, whatever. And I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing?
I think this shit really does hit the fan. Now, this is when we get the appearance of Famke Janssen, who looks great still.
Oh, she still looks amazing.
Mike and Worm, they get into this argument when Mike finds out from Petra that she's one of the workers at the Chesterfield.
Right.
That Worm's been playing at the club often under Mike's credit.
Right.
Which results in Worm going on a complete losing streak and getting Mike into a $6,000 debt.
Yeah, or a $7,000 at that point.
We have to fight. We need to fight.
Yeah.
I love you like a brother.
Jay, if you rack up $7,000 debt.
We need to fight. We must fight.
We fight. I ain't talking to you again. BTTC is over.
I might actually shoot at you, Dave. I just may pull out my gun and shoot at you.
I got a lot of love for you. I got a lot of loyalty for you. But you ain't racking up $7,000 debt under my name.
If you rack up $200, we have a fucking problem. I'm serious. Let me just get it out there right now. We have a serious friendship on the rocks problem. 6,000? Oh my God.
So, all right. So what winds up happening? So they basically recognizing kind of a bad situation, Mike and, at this point, Gretchen Mole's out of the picture. And they need to reconcile this situation. So what winds up happening is they go and they have a conversation with Grandma, basically stating, look, I can give you $5,000 right now. Mm-hmm. You know, if you can extend our time if you want, you know, and I can give you $5,000 right now. And Grandma was like, no, like, you know, at first it kind of seemed like he was interested in doing it. But then once again, Worm gets them in trouble
with the juice. He paying $5,000 with the juice,
right? You know, keep the juice running on us. You know, which just basically means keep the debt rolling on us at that point. Right. And instead, what winds up happening is Worm runs his mouth, and Grandma says, "Y'all have 5 days to come up with $15,000." 5 days, and the entire time, like Worm is a phenomenal card player. And so is Mike, but this requires a lot of time to be able to pull off $15,000. And one way that Worm had kept suggesting is for them to basically work a table together. You know, basically have Worm be a dealer, and you know he plays one way, and Mike benefits from all of it afterwards, and then you know that's what's up. So then we get this montage, and this montage kind of goes on and on and on about, you know, discussing things like, or it's not a montage, but, you know, it's basically like them trying to win up a whole bunch of money, and they finally get a game. First off, this game is 5 hours away from, and they're on their last day, 5 hours away from, where they live at, from New York City.
New York, yep.
So, and come to find out, Worm's brilliant idea was to rip off municipal workers, which wind up being cops. Now, to be fair, they were initially going to run a clean game. And they were. Mm-hmm. Mike was up $4,200 at one point. He was halfway there to the goal that they needed to be at that point, because they only needed about 7,000 more. And then they were going to be clear, right? But instead, what winds up happening is Worm comes in, and because one of the guys finds him at the bowling alley that he was hanging out at, and jumps in the game, and instead of playing a clean game, plays it dirty. But of course, one of the cops catches him from dealing from the bottom of the deck. So you get caught in front of cops and proceed to all right. Now, I'm not here to advocate for police brutality at all, but y'all need to get the shit kicked out of you at that point. That's exactly what these cops did. They beat the living fuck out of these guys.
But yeah, unfortunately, Mike gets his ass beat too.
Oh, man, and it's bad. They take all their money, and you're kind of left with the situation of like, wow, like, what are we going to do now?
I'm going to beat Worm's ass again, and then probably figure out from there.
So, which we all thought was going to happen, but it didn't wind up that way. Instead, what wound up happening was Mike basically cut ties off with Worm. They get into a huge argument, and Mike leaves him there 5 hours away from New York City. And the fact is that, well, now Worm's not around. Mike owes $15,000 because his name is caught on this debt too. First thing he does is that he goes to Kanish, because Kanish is one of those guys that he's willing to help you out, of course, right? So
Kanish played by John Turturro, by the way.
Yeah, Kanish is John Turturro. So Kanish goes and basically gives him this fantastic speech. And he goes, no, I'm not going to help you out. I gave you so much advice about this. I told you everything that basically is going to happen if you relate yourself to a guy like Worm.
Right.
And I told you exactly what's going to happen. You're going to come around and Mike cuts him off and he's like, look, man, I don't need a lecture right now. He goes, what I need is cash and I need money. So is there anything you can do to help me out or what? Like $500 isn't going to do anything for me right now. Do you have $2,000 that can get me? And Kanish smartly says no. Says no. He says no. This is my mortgage we're talking about. This is my kids we're talking about. This is child support. This is alimony. I don't run for these huge dreams. I don't go for these big skirt chasing games because the bottom line is that I got to make my living off of this.
Right.
Damn.
Whew. Okay.
So think about that. It was a growing up moment for Mike right there because at that point, you know, Mike had this head full of dreams of what he was going to do with this. He idolized players like Johnny Chan who wound up winning 2 World Series bracelets and how he was able to bluff his way to a title basically.
Right.
You know, and he idolized these guys and the reality of the situation is, and the reason why he did this is he literally went to Atlantic City, played a game, and Johnny Chan just so happened to be there. And he said, you know what? I didn't fucking care about the money. I didn't care about what the hands were. I just knew I was going to outplay Johnny Chan in this hand. And he did. Mm-hmm. He outplayed him in this hand. And that's how this movie basically started rolling. But Kanish smartly says no. So then what happens?
What happens is the next part, remembering an earlier conversation that Mike had with law school professor Petrovsky.
Yeah.
Martin Landau.
Which is Martin Landau, Petrovsky.
Mike goes over to Petrovsky's office to ask for the money as a loan. Now, I thought him going to him, I didn't think it was right to go to Petrovsky, but you do see their chemistry earlier in the movie.
Of course.
To where Petrovsky definitely believes in Mike as far as his skills.
Yeah.
But he's more so on the law side of the things. So I thought the dynamic between them just worked better.
Of course. And you know what? It was a very good dynamic. And it really helped the movie out a little bit because the truth is that it's like this. When you know you believe in somebody's skill, when you know the investment into a person is going to be a good investment regardless, then that's what you do. You invest into that person. You know, if you believe in something that person is selling, then you know, you invest into it in whatever way that you basically can.
And he couldn't give the full 15.
No, because nobody's going to give you the full 15.
But he gave you 10.
Right.
But you still thank him.
Yeah. And he was grateful for it. Mm-hmm. So then, doing the only thing they could do, he decided to go down to KGB and
challenge him to another game.
And and challenge it to another game. Says, I'll play you. I have 10 here. No problem. I'll play you straight up for it and we'll figure this out. And then it kind of goes into this game and a couple awesome things that basically happen. The first thing that happens is that he literally takes out one of the legs of KGB and he just starts what's called leaning in poker. What that basically means is that he won a big hand, and because his pot was much bigger than KGB's at that point, he just basically wins all his money off of him just by slowly grinding him out, right? So, but what winds up happening, so he actually wins back all the money, and he was going to be up $5,000. But KGB goads him again into basically, well, I'm still up on you $20,000 at the end of the day. Now, you could walk out of here, but I'm still up on you $20,000, so I'm not really worried. I just lost your money to you. Mike didn't take that so well. And I was a little mad when I first saw that because I was like, dude, what are you doing? Because the next scene basically showed KGB at this point had a huge role, and you come to find out something about him. KGB had a telltale sign of how good his hand was by if he would eat his Oreos or if he wouldn't. If he ate the Oreos, it means he had a great hand, probably a winning hand. If he didn't have a good hand, you know, he wouldn't eat the Oreos. So it was interesting.
Which, you know, I said earlier, the Oreo thing just bothers me.
Of course, but it was an obvious sign to the viewers at that point.
Right. Furious that Mike folded that hand and Mike potentially discovered his tell, KGB tosses the Oreos and begins to play on tilt.
Right.
Now, Mike is shaken, visibly shaken. And I remember this scene very well because the one thing I must credit this movie for, like I said, it's a lot of scenery showing. But when you're so locked in with KGB versus Mike,
Right.
and their poker faces is going and like I said, John Malkovich as KGB, who's a scenery chewing ass, so is Matt Damon, and they really kind of found this camera angle, this whole creating this weird tension.
Right.
You know, because you don't know which way this is going to go.
Of course. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing in actual World Series of Poker, because sometimes you see the luckiest hand in the world, and sometimes you just see somebody game what's called the bad beat.
Right.
You know, so what winds up happening is they fast forward basically to the end. KGB thinks he has a fucking awesome hand once again, you know, and he goes all in. Mike calls, but Mike clearly wins, and he wins back all his money back. One of the things that was a little interesting in that scene though was like grandma, like bro, you're still getting paid. So like at first they were like looking like they wanted to fight Matt Damon, but then like KGB was like, no, he beats me fair and square. He beats me at my own game or whatever in his retarded Russian accent. It was a retarded Russian accent.
I like that.
He beats me at my own game. He beats me at my own game. Anyways, so grandma, you know, first it looks like they want to fight. It's like, dude, you're still going to get paid the debt back. It was like you didn't even care about the debt. You just wanted to break somebody's like
just
shit. Because what happens afterwards, he looks over and he looks at the table and he flips the table. And I was like, the last we saw grandma, I was like, dude, you're still getting paid. You're getting paid. The debt is paid off. So at this point, Mike had won $60,000. So he goes and he pays back the 15 for the debt. He pays whatever to the Chesterfield, which was 6. Mm-hmm. And then he pays Petrovsky his 10. And he hands the money to his ex-girlfriend because she's still doing whatever. And yeah, like he just says, you know, at that point she was still like kind of wondering if there was going to be something there, and it was pretty clear that he was over her like super quick. And the movie ends with a shot of a taxi going off to the airport, and he says the World Series of Poker winning the World Series of Poker is a $1 million prize. Does my name is my name going to be on one of those bracelets? I guess we'll have to find out. And then that's it. That would be Rounders.
That's Rounders. I never thought a movie about card games would be so interesting. Like,
it's good.
Since Rounders, we've gotten what, 21.
We've gotten a lot.
Deal with Burt Reynolds, rest in peace. What, Mississippi Grind.
Yeah, Mississippi Grind.
There's been a few movies.
Molly's Game.
Oh, great movie by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you think? Now, I'm not saying that we're gonna create a new genre of like, you know, card game movies, but, you know, since Rounders is literally 20 years old today, and everything that we've gotten up until this point, can poker movies or card game movies, or really just gambling movies as a whole, can those take a new breath of life?
In a sense. Mm-hmm. I don't think it can be about the game itself. It has to be like the game has to be a device that's used, mm-hmm. but it can't be about the game itself. Because if I'm just going to watch a game itself, I'll just watch TV
or go to the casino.
Right. But I don't know. What do you think?
I'll say this. I'll say because we live in Las Vegas, I'm very optimistic. So therefore, I think a properly put together, written, directed, acted movie based upon the highs and lows of, you know, World Series Poker, of 21, of Blackjack, or hell, even a crap game. You know, if you really work on those high tense scenes, you know, really kind of, you know, make it feel like we're there with you as you roll that snake eyes and you weren't supposed to roll that yet, or whatever. I think we are in a position to where we could get a slew of, you know, gambling movies that take on different meanings. One could be a comedy.
The funny thing about that is that is that there have been obviously different forms of gambling movies, and not just about gambling. Example, we had Maverick, the Mel Gibson movie. That was about an hour too long, but Maverick's one of those movies that they try to turn into a comedy. I'll give you another one. White Men Can't Jump. No, that's a gambling movie, straight up. Because
it's kind of more of a basketball movie, a sports movie.
No, and the reason why it's not is because the livelihood of the men that was there made their money based upon this. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that because of someone's bad habits, in this case Woody Harrelson, he loses a girl at the end of the movie, Rosie Perez. Mm-hmm. White Men Can't Jump is one of those gambling movies that it just also has a basketball game that's going on in it. Because a lot of people are trying to hustle each other throughout the entire thing. So I think hustler movies, absolutely. And I mean, we've had some great ones already. Mm-hmm. Paul Newman had 2 of them.
Oh yeah, The Gambler and
I can't think of
Cool Hand Luke?
Not Cool Hand. No. It's a billiards one. It's the pool movie.
Cocktails.
No.
Oh, no, that's Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that's Tom Cruise. Dude, he won like an Oscar for this. Paul Newman, oh my Lord. He had The Hustler, right?
The Hustler. I'm sorry, I said The Gambler.
He had The Hustler, and then he had The Color of Money.
Color of Money, another Tom Cruise flick. There we go.
Exactly.
I know Tom Cruise. He was
I know Tom Cruise was in it also. Right. It's The Color of Money.
So let's kick off takeaways. Danger Dave, who's getting That Guy award?
I'm actually going to give it to Kanish. It's not that I feel like Mike is a very generic character.
Yes.
It's not that I just don't see anything truly special with him, especially 20 years later. Like, okay, you're incredibly good at poker, but why do I want to care about how good you are at poker? At least with Kanish, I could say, well, I know why you have to be good at poker. You have to pay a mortgage afterwards. Meanwhile, Mike's over here slinging around $7,000 like it's nothing. And, winning $15,000 in 5 days or whatever. And that's that. He had one bad beat and then that's it.
That chick award.
Let's give it a go to Gretchen Mol. I think, Famke Janssen definitely is really, really cool in this, but man, Gretchen Mol basically took a poker ideology and ran with that in the movie. She realized that she was dealt a bad hand and she just decided to fold on it. And it's like, man, like if that's not a theory of life, I don't know what is.
This Fool award.
It's tough not to give it to Worm, but I think Worm is also too fascinating of a character to kind of give it to him. Right. I'm going to give it to Grandma because what is your operation? You pimp and then you're partners with the Russian mafia and then you get mad when your debt is paid back. What are you?
It didn't make any sense.
It didn't make any sense. Whereas at least Worm was like, I'm scum of the earth. And then there you go. That's what I am. And I know that. And I'm okay with it.
Cut that out.
The Taj Mahal scene. What I mean is that the scene where they go to the New Jersey casino and basically they're trying to character develop with one of the characters from Billy Madison, which I thought was just hilarious. But it was whatever to me. I didn't really care for it.
Iconic scene.
The talk between Petrovsky and Mike that they had where they were kind of talking about passions. It's true. Like, if you ain't doing what you love, you really should find something else.
Words live by.
Exactly. Marcos, Jay Alonso, who is getting your That Guy award?
My That Guy award is going to have to go. Sorry, I'm going to really kind of split the two because really they anchored this movie so well. It's going to be Mike and Worm. Their friendship, their chemistry is undeniable. Obviously, they go completely separate ways, and Worm drags them into some shit that they almost didn't make it out of.
Yeah.
But above all, it gives you a reason to care about Worm.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To at least be like, all right, you know what? You're a fuck up.
Yeah.
But I can't watch you go down because of this.
Right. I can see that.
Yeah.
Who's getting your That Girl award?
Gretchen Muller's Joe. She tried to hold it down for her man as long as possible, but at the end of the day, when it's calling, it's calling. And so, I think it was noble of him to be able to say goodbye and have her going with her life. I don't imagine having a girlfriend who's like overly upset, overly like, I don't want you to gamble, da, da, da. Or my gambling has become so bad, you already left me before because of it.
Which is something that I really liked about her character.
Yeah, me too.
Because maybe she didn't feel like his gambling was like such a problem, but it was the fact that she brought him back, and he just he kind of shitted on her.
Yeah, but even when we met her for the first time, and he even mentions poker, her whole attitude changes.
Yeah, well, it kind of makes sense though.
It does.
It's like if you were to talk about alcohol, if you were a recovering alcoholic and you're like, man, one of these drinks I had, it's like, bro, really? Like you wanted to kill yourself or whatever, and you didn't, but I had to watch you go through all that. So yeah, I'm gonna have it's gonna relate a negative emotion to me.
Okay.
Who's getting you That Fool award?
That fool, Teddy KGB.
What, for the Oreos?
No, I'm lying. Take it back. I'm gonna give it to Grandma. Grandma is violent for no fucking reason.
Exactly.
For no reason whatsoever. So
exactly.
I actually like Teddy KGB in this movie.
He hurts a dog for no reason.
He's just
hold on. You got to get him in the act. It's like what? Because he's chewing on furniture. I'm so glad he didn't show that scene. I literally would have lost. I would have flipped my shit.
But you know what? The thing with the difference between Teddy KGB and Grandma is that as a Russian mob connect, or you are the Russian mob, he's incredibly calm.
Yeah.
I mean, scary calm, actually.
A little.
But,
Yeah.
but he's not the one to really, jump off the deep end. And then when Mike actually wins and his goons are ready to jump him, he tells me, hey, chill out. He beat me fair and square.
Yeah.
Or if
he was pissed about it, but he accepted it. There's something respectable about that.
Yes.
Cut that out.
I'm going to go with the Taj Mahal scene as well.
I just feel like it's unnecessary.
And if you're going to keep that in there, why not make it longer?
Right. Or make it a little bit more interesting.
Yes.
Like it's literally the 6 of you guys socializing and taking 2 tourists at a time's money. How's that helping anybody?
Yeah.
Iconic scene.
I'm gonna go with the scene when Mike goes in with Petrovsky, and he's already playing a game with judges and lawyers, and just the elite of law, kind of just sitting there playing a game of cards. And so going back to when he was smelling it, when Petrovsky, one of them raises a bet, and Petrovsky he's looking at his. And you can just tell Mike is sniffing that out. He goes, no. He'll raise you. No. What are you doing, Mike? Trust me, I got this. And so the guys around him goes, oh, he's smart. He knows his thing. And he manages to bet I'm going to say he wanted to bet the judge.
Right.
And he said, a summer internship with you, and I'll do this.
Right. And the judge was like, I can't give you the position, but you'll be at the top of my list.
I mean, if I can impress somebody like that just by simply knowing cards, oh my God! Like, where's a good? Come on now, we want to take Beat Networks to the next level. We want to take BTC to the next level.
But we gotta do that with movie trivia.
Yeah, but I mean, I really know dominoes too.
Oh, you know dominoes?
I really know my dominoes. But let's get into quick hits. We can wrap this puppy up. Matt Damon and Ed Norton played the $10,000 buy-in Texas Hold'em No Limit championship event at the 1998 World Series of Poker in Las Vegas. During the first 4 days, Matt Damon had pocket kings and was knocked out by former world champion and poker legend Doyle Brunson, who held pocket aces.
That's dope. I ain't gonna lie. If I was to go out, that's how I want to go out.
Worm was originally supposed to smoke, but avid non-smoker Edward Norton refused.
Good for you, man.
All right. Early on, Mike is seen taking money out of a poker book called Super System, which was written by poker legend Doyle Brunson. He later pulls quotes from the book with the lines Texas Hold'em is the Cadillac of poker games, and the trick to No Limit is to put a man to a decision for all of his chips. I know nothing about poker.
Man, it's too bad. I think you really like it. If you know dominoes, you should know poker.
I have a red poker face. Like, look. Neff Campbell turned down the role of Joe. All right.
Okay. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, Gretchen Mol, I think, is actually wonderful in this movie, but I think she could also be replaced.
Rounders was set in New York City, but all of the law school scenes were filmed in and around Rutgers Law School in Newark, New Jersey.
I got one for you. I'm not sure if it's on there, but Malkovich and Damon play against each other in this, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what would later happen is Damon goes and he plays the character, the talented Mr. Ripley, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's a sequel that comes out that shows Ripley in his much later years, and that's played by John Malkovich.
I'm literally reading that exact fact
really?
right now. Man. That's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. Matt Damon's character, Mike McDermott, is based on singer-songwriter Michael McDermott. The film was also written by Michael's friends. Who's Michael McDermott?
Some white guy? I don't know him. Why you look at me?
I thought you knew. Sorry.
Sorry, I don't know my white people like you know your dominoes.
But I know my dominoes days. And last but not least, in the scene where Michael is talking to Judge Petrovsky in a bar, the judge is drinking a bottle of Barton Gin, a cheap well gin. That it?
That's it, man. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that shit. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Rounders. No guests this week. It's cool. Just me and my brother just kind of just going back and forth. It's been a good one.
Yeah, I liked it.
But we have more work to do. We have to do a whole other show tomorrow because Mr. Dave is going out of town.
Not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow?
I can't do tomorrow.
Well, it'll be sometime.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Also, look out for our review for White Boy Rick coming this week as well. Dave, let the people know where they can find you.
You can always find me on all the major social media outlets. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. At David Danger Neff. We are the hosts here at Back to the Classics. We also have our own YouTube show, Reel It Back.
Reel It Back.
Jay was wonderful enough to go ahead and mention that we are going to do White Boy Rick. I'm excited for that.
I really am.
I think it's going to be good. We recently did the movie Searching. So if you haven't gotten around to actually catching that is on YouTube right now. If you go to Reel It Back and look up Searching. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You can catch us at Comic-Con. That's kind of dope.
I love how you just hey, listen, Comic-Con's coming. Be ready.
My wonderful host, Jay Alonzo, where can they find you?
You can find me on all the social media simply at I am Jay Alonzo. That's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. You talk to me and I talk back. The Back to the Classic Movie Talk page on Facebook is up and popping. Go ahead, jump in there and join the conversation. We love to have you. Of course, follow BTTC on Instagram and Twitter, simply at BTTC Podcast. And yeah, we're going to Comic-Con.
Yeah, we're just going to Comic-Con. Yeah, it's whatever. We're going to start sounding so smooth, and we're just going to we're going to wear sunglasses like everywhere.
The closer we get to leave, I'm like, oh yeah, fucking.
I know, right? Like we were so excited at the beginning of the month. I was just like, yeah, we're just going to.
Yeah,
by the time that we actually, it was like, fuck, we're going to Comic-Con.
With that being said, we love you guys to death. Cannot wait to come back again next week and do it all over again one more time. Shout out to the Spotify, iTunes, and iHeartRadio people. Love you guys as well. Shout out to the whole Beat Network family. Shout out to you guys, the center folks out there who tune into us every single week. With that being said, I am Jay Alonzo with my guy.
I'm David Danger Neff.
See you next week, y'all. Back to the Classics. Peace.